Brigitte Bardot, whose full name is Brigitte Anne-Marie Bardot, widely known by her initials BB, was one of the most recognizable and influential cultural figures of the 20th century. Born in Paris on September 28, 1934, she rose from a disciplined, upper-middle-class upbringing to become an international film star, a fashion and beauty icon, a pop singer, and later one of the world's most outspoken animal rights activists. Although she stepped away from acting in the early 1970s, her image, personality, and legacy continued to shape popular culture for decades. At the time of her death on December 28, 2025, Bardot was remembered not only for her cinematic impact but also for the intensity with which she lived, loved, provoked, and defended causes she believed in. Shortly after her rise to global fame, Bardot accumulated significant wealth through film contracts, music recordings, book sales, and property investments. Her estimated net worth was widely placed at $65 million, a figure reflecting both her earnings during her peak years and the enduring commercial value of her name, image, and intellectual property. Bardot was born into a conservative Catholic family in Paris. Her father, Louis Bardot, was an engineer and industrialist, while her mother, Anne-Marie Musil, came from a financially comfortable background. Although materially privileged, Bardot later described her childhood as emotionally restrictive. Her parents imposed strict rules, formal manners, and emotional distance, which fostered in her a sense of resentment and a deep desire for freedom. She also suffered from amblyopia, which impaired vision in one eye, and grew up with her younger sister, Mijanu, who would later follow her into acting. During the German occupation of Paris in World War II, Bardot spent long periods indoors. Music and movement became her refuge, and her mother encouraged her interest in dance. She trained seriously in ballet, attending private schools that allowed her to balance academics with intensive dance lessons. By her mid-teens, she was studying ballet at the Conservatoire de Paris under the Russian choreographer Boris Knyazev, and for a time, it appeared that dance might define her future. Her life changed course when she began modeling. In 1949, she appeared in fashion magazines, and in 1950, at just 15 years old, she graced the cover of Elle. This exposure led directly to film auditions, despite her parents' strong objections. At one such audition, she met Roger Vadim, a young writer and aspiring director. Their relationship quickly became intense and controversial within her family, eventually forcing a compromise that led to marriage when Bardot turned 18. Bardot entered cinema in the early 1950s, initially in small roles. Her youthful beauty, natural sensuality, and unstudied screen presence quickly drew attention. Early films such as Menina, The Girl in the Bikini, and Doctor at Sea established her as a rising star, but it was And God Created Woman, 1956, directed by Vadim, that transformed her into an international phenomenon. The film's portrayal of uninhibited female sexuality shocked audiences, particularly in the United States, and Bardot became a symbol of liberation, desire, and rebellion against social restraint. Throughout the late 1950s and early 1960s, she dominated European cinema and achieved rare crossover success in the English-speaking world. She worked with leading directors such as Jean-Luc Godard, Louis Malle, Henri-Georges Clouzot, and René Clair, and co-starred with major actors including Jean Gabin, Marcello Mastroianni, Jean Moreau, and Sean Connery. Films such as The Truth, Contempt, and Viva Maria showcased not only her allure but also her dramatic range. At her peak, she was France's highest-paid actress and one of the most photographed women on Earth. Alongside her acting career, Bardot pursued music, recording dozens of songs that became closely associated with her image. Her collaborations with Serge Gainsbourg produced some of the most memorable French pop recordings of the era. Although she never claimed to be a technically accomplished singer, her voice and persona resonated strongly with audiences, further cementing her status as a cultural icon. By the late 1960s, however, Bardot had grown increasingly disillusioned with fame, the film industry, and public scrutiny. She completed a final series of films and retired from acting in 1973 while still a major star. From that point forward, she devoted herself almost entirely to animal welfare, founding the Brigitte Bardot Foundation in 1986. Using her wealth, notoriety, and relentless energy, she campaigned against hunting, animal cruelty, ritual slaughter practices, and the mistreatment of wildlife worldwide. Her activism earned praise from international organizations such as UNESCO and PETA, but also controversy, fines, and legal battles due to the blunt and often inflammatory language she used in public statements. Bardot's personal life was as complex and turbulent as her public career. She was married 4 times. Her first marriage, to Roger Vadim in 1952, launched both her personal independence and her professional ascent, but it ended in divorce in 1957. Her second marriage, to actor Jacques Charrier in 1959, was marked by emotional strain and intense media pressure. From this union came her only child, Nicolas Jacques Charrier, born in January 1960. Bardot openly acknowledged that motherhood did not come naturally to her, and her relationship with her son was troubled for many years. After her divorce from Charrier in 1962, he gained custody of Nicolas. Although their bond was deeply fractured for decades, Bardot later stated that they reconciled in her later years, maintaining contact and mutual respect. Her third marriage, to German industrial heir and photographer Gunter Sachs in 1966, placed her briefly within the world of international high society. The marriage ended in divorce in 1969. Her fourth and final marriage, to Bernard Diormael in 1992, proved the most enduring and lasted until her death. Though quieter than her earlier relationships, it aligned with her later life in Saint-Tropez, focused on privacy, animals, and activism. Beyond her marriages, Bardot had numerous high-profile romantic relationships with artists, musicians, and actors, including Serge Gainsbourg, Sasha Distel, Bob Zaguri, and Warren Beatty. She never concealed her belief that passion, rather than stability, defined her emotional life. In her later decades, Bardot lived reclusively at her Saint-Tropez home, La Madrague, surrounded by animals. She withdrew almost entirely from modern technology and celebrity culture, granting interviews only rarely. Despite declining health in her later years, she remained intellectually and politically outspoken, continuing to issue letters, statements, and appeals related to animal protection until shortly before her death. Brigitte Bardot's legacy is multifaceted and enduring. She redefined female sexuality on screen, influenced fashion trends such as the bikini and the Bardot neckline, inspired generations of artists, musicians, and designers, and left an indelible mark on cinema and popular culture. At the same time, her uncompromising activism and controversial statements ensured that she remained a polarizing figure. To admirers, she was fearless and authentic. To critics, reckless and provocative. What remains undeniable is that Bardot lived on her own terms, shaping not only her era but also the debates that followed long after she stepped away from the spotlight.